going to be reacting to this video called "What Happened to the 27 Players Drafted Before Jordan Poole." As you guys know, the Warriors won a championship this year for the 2022 season, and Jordan Poole is a big part of it, man. He covered for Klay Thompson when he was out at the beginning of the season, and he had great moments in the playoffs. So, and let's see what this video is talking about.
Jordan Poole of the Golden State Warriors is absolutely torching the NBA playoffs right now. It still hasn't set in just how crazy what he is doing is, and to say this was unexpected just a couple years ago is an understatement. Today we're going to look back at every single player that was taken ahead of him in the draft and see where they are now. And trust me, some of these are going to surprise you. If you guys like the content, smash the like button, smash subscribe button. Let's go for 69.420 likes on today's video, and let's get into it. It's been a pretty crazy journey for Poole to where he is today. In high school, he was still pretty heavily recruited, graduating as the 51st player in the country and the 11th shooting guard. He ended up winning a national title as a senior, but he was overshadowed by his top recruit teammates Brian Bowen and Jaren Jackson Jr. He decided to go to the University of Michigan, but at the time, it really wasn't on the map for the NBA draft. He was just 6'4" with a 6'6" wingspan, not a frame that blew scouts away. He wasn't an explosive athlete, and he still had a lot to prove. And not much really changed after his freshman season. He had a pretty small role and finished the year averaging just 6 points. Things would get a lot better as a sophomore. He became a starter and averaged 13 points, shooting 37% from 3 on over 5 attempts a game. Clearly not jaw-dropping numbers, but the shooting started to get him some attention for the draft. But when talking about that 2019 draft, his name rarely came up. To give you an idea of where he was expected to go, ESPN had him in the late second round. Bleacher Report mid-second round. Both NBA Draft Room and NBADraft.net had him going mid-second round. Point. He was looked at as a late second round to possibly undrafted prospect. Now that 2019 draft was crazy. We knew who was going at the top, but after that, there was a ton of surprises. Cam Johnson was being mocked as a late first round pick. He ended up going 11th overall. Bol Bol was looked at as a late lottery, a mid-first round selection. He ended up going in the second round.
I don't see how Jordan Poole cracks more than 5 or 6 minutes a game. To me, Jordan Poole was not a top 50 prospect in this draft.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense to me. I would give it a D grade. Okay. So many upside guys on the board. If you're Golden State, I'd either want to get somebody with more upside or somebody who I think can help me next season. I'm not sure Jordan Poole's either one of those things.
Oh boy, they did not hold back. They literally called him a D selection and doubled down, talking about his lack of upside and inability to crack the rotation. I'm sure these guys don't want to look back at this take. Now, in their defense, no one expected this development. If you did, you were lying.
I didn't respect it, man.
Career. We forget this.
I've been playing 2K and he was just a bench guy.
Terrible rookie season. Obviously, he showed some potential for the future, but this was a guy not giving you much on the defensive end and averaging 9 points, shooting 33% from the field and 28% from 3. That's not great. I mean, that competes for one of the least productive seasons in NBA history when you consider he was averaging over 22 minutes a game. Now, a lot changed in his second year. The narrative was completely different. It's not like he was blowing people away, but he looked pretty good, averaging 12 points, shooting 35% from 3. But most of us have forgotten the sentiment around him at the time. There was so much talk ahead of this season when it comes to the Warriors making a trade due to their young pieces and the contract of Andrew Wiggins. People were bringing up James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, future first-round picks. It was rare you saw Poole brought up as a significant trade piece. Then everything just seemed to align this season. We heard talks before the year that the Warriors loved what they saw from him, that he was torching the team in practice, and Steve Kerr was raving about his work ethic. Now, we can only take so much from that. What team isn't hyping up their players? But then
that boy nasty out there.
And everyone paid attention. He went out there and in his 5 games was a legitimate co-star to Stephen Curry, averaging 22 points, shooting 50% from the field and 36% from 3. But you know, it's the preseason. How much can we really make of that? Then the season starts. The Warriors are on absolute fire. They're the #1 seed in the league. And a big part of that is none other than Jordan
Wayne.
He's averaging 19 points in the first month.
He puts you in a cycle.
Now, he would go through a little bit of a lull in the middle of the season. He was injured for a tiny bit. Klay was added to the rotation, but then Curry got hurt. And Jordan Poole made it very clear he is the real deal. In the last 20 games of the season, a full quarter of the year, he averaged 25, 6, and 4, shooting 48% from the field and 43% from 3. Absolutely insane. the mid-level recruit
Crazy
that averaged
numbers.
6 points as a freshman at Michigan, a guy that some were projecting to go undrafted, a guy that was getting clowned by supposed draft experts after the Warriors selected him, had become a legit star in the league in just his 3rd season. Now we're in the playoffs. Curry is back, but Jordan Poole is not taking a back seat. He is just leveling up, dropping 30 points to open the playoffs and 29 to follow it up. He's shooting over 60% from the field, making 10 of his 17 three-pointers. He is truly the 3rd Splash Brother, and when all 3 are out there, the death lineup as some like to call it, there is no team in the league more fun to watch. It's remarkable what the Warriors have done. They drafted Curry, he's still on the roster. They drafted Clay, he's still on the roster. They got Draymond in the 2nd round, he's still with the team. And now Jordan Poole, what were these teams thinking? He was an undersized shooting guard that wasn't crazy defensively, had never proven himself as a high-volume guy both in high school and college, but it's still fun to look back at. Now, for obvious reasons, we're not going to spend too long on this selection, as there's 27 of them. There was a clear top 3 prospects in the draft. You had Zion Williamson, who went 1. Zion, like a franchise-altering player. The only question with him, will he be out there enough to actually alter a franchise like the Pelicans? You had Ja Morant, who went 2 to the Grizzlies, who's quickly become one of the top point guards in the league. He's the likely most improved winner, with him leading the Grizzlies to the 2nd seed in the Western Conference. Then you've got the first player taking at Poole's position, RJ Barrett, a super highly touted prospect coming out of both high school and college that so far looks like a great piece for the Knicks' future. Now this is the part of the draft where it gets interesting to look at where Poole would go if we redrafted tomorrow. DeAndre Hunter was taken at 4. While he's been super solid at this point, being a reliable 3-and-D wing for Atlanta, it's unclear if there's much upside to his game. One of the better players from this class was taken at 5, and that's Darius Garland, who's another player that's exploded this season. He's averaged 22 points, shooting with really solid efficiency, and has grown a ton as a playmaker. He's on pace to be one of the league's top point guards. Then we saw the draft go on a pretty bad stretch. The biggest bust, Jarrett Culver, came off the board next, who's actually on the brink of being out of the league completely. And he's actually interesting to compare to Jordan Poole, not for their play on the court, but how they were looked at before the draft. Culver, as a sophomore at Texas Tech, led them to an NCAA championship appearance. Everything seemed to be there. The frame was there, the defense was there, the upside was there. He was looked at as one of the safest options at the shooting guard position. Now his career might be coming to an end. While the overlooked, D-grade selection by the Warriors is now leading a playoff contender in scoring. It just goes to show you how unpredictable the draft really is. After Culver, you've got a stretch of a bunch of guys that have been alright, such as Kobe White, Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura, and Cam Reddish. Now Reddish is interesting, as he was actually disappointing in college, but he was selected due to his high potential he failed to reach, which is pretty funny considering Poole's biggest criticism was his potential. A huge surprise was at 11 when the Suns went with Cameron Johnson, a player that's become a foundational piece of this roster and is legitimately one of the better 3-and-D wings in the entire league. The last pick of the lottery was none other than Tyler Hero. He's another guy that's fascinating to look back at, as he also went overlooked due to what appeared to be a lack of upside. I think we know why they thought this, but nonetheless, they were very wrong. He's now a 20-point-a-game scorer and this year's 6th man of the year. He's the only other player when it comes to our redraft I think Poole is even debatable with. I think obviously you've got Ja and Zion at the top, but after that, you've got this tier of guys that includes RJ Barrett, Tyler Hero, Darius Garland, and Jordan Poole. Now call me crazy, but I would have him in the top half of that group with his ability to really be the #1 option on the perimeter and the fact that we're just starting to see what he's capable of. Who's to say what's next? But all these guys are really close. It just really comes down to who you perceive to have more upside. There's really not a wrong answer. Now after the lottery, the draft got pretty ugly. Romeo Langford, bust. Sekou Doumbouya, bust. Chuma Okeke, determined, but not looking great. Nickeil Alexander-Walker looked like he had a ton of upside for a while, but improvement hasn't come and time is ticking. Goga's been a rotation pick for Indiana. We've got to go to the 20th pick to once again find someone really making an impact in the league. That would be Matisse Thybulle. Now, he doesn't bring you a lot. By that, I mean nothing on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, he's up there with the best of them. Then you've got Brandon Clark, who's a solid rotation piece for the Grizzlies.
Brandon Clark is solid.
At 22, the Celtics were able to grab Grant Williams. It's been a slow development, but I love his place on this team, and I really think he's a huge part of why they have one of the best rotations in the league. Bringing them a guy that fits their defensive identity while being a respectable shooter, shooting over 41% from 3 this season. Next up was Darius Bazley, who's always had the potential. The question is, will the production ever match it? Then there was Tyre Jerome, who really doesn't have a role, Nazir Little, who doesn't really have a role, Dylan Windler, who doesn't have a role, Mfiondu Kabengele, who doesn't have a role. Then we finally reached Jordan Poole at 28. So yes, over half the players taken ahead of him in a matter of just 3 years are either completely out of the league or on the verge of being in that scenario. There's just a few players, as we mentioned, that you can even consider taking ahead of him. Absolutely incredible. And we just need to give our props not only to Jordan Poole for what he's done, but the Warriors for taking him here. As we said earlier on in the video, despite all these busts going ahead of him, no one even thought he was going to go in the first round. But that's the video, guys. You guys, some of your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash the like button, smash the subscribe
That's a
button.
good video,
And I'll
man. I
catch you
like it
guys
a
next
lot.
time. Peace.
Jordan Poole is nasty, man. I mean, he showed up or whatnot, show a lot of people what he's about, dog. So, hey, shout out to Jordan Poole. Shout out to the Warriors for taking him. They still got that boy Nico on the team, too, I think. I'm not sure, but I know they drafted him. So, Nico Manning. I think that's his name. But I know his first name is Nico. But, yeah, that's the end of this video. So, you guys liked it, drop a like, comment, subscribe. And, you guys want a shirt, my store's in the description. You can check it out. And other than that, peace.